Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Gentle Art of Crushing It show, where we focus on learning and sharing with our listeners all there is to know about how to create success in our lives. This show stands on the shoulders of giants. Our mission is to empower and inspire our listeners to create the life of their dreams whilst having a blast in the process. Let's celebrate life together. Welcome to the show.
Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Randy Smith. Randy is the founder of Impact Equity, which was formed to help investors achieve strong results in their passive real estate investing strategies. Randy's main responsibilities include introducing and assisting investors with investment opportunities offered by various real estate investment firms. Now, Randy currently resides in Peoria, Arizona with his wife, Jenny, regularly visits his daughter, Molly, in Oregon, and he has spent the last 25 years working in various business development and leadership roles in corporate America. In his most recent role at a Fortune 100 financial services company, he led his organization through numerous product launches, achieving various accolades, including 2 President's Club awards and 2 Chairman's Awards. Now, Randy has started his real estate investing career doing out-of-state turnkey and BRRRR strategies in the single-family rental space, and he quickly realized the many additional benefits he could receive by switching his strategy to passively investing in multifamily syndications. Randy has now invested in 15 different syndications with 6 different operators, which gives him the unique knowledge and expertise to recognize a strong passive opportunity. Now, Randy has started his undergraduate studies at Northern Michigan University and holds a Bachelor of Science in Business Marketing from University of Phoenix. Without any further ado, won't you please join me in welcoming Randy to the show? Thank you so much for joining us today, on the Gentle Art of Crushing It. Really appreciate your time and you sharing your time with us. I'd like to just start us off with the first question here. So please just tell us, about yourself, your background, where and how you found success, like in any niche in particular that you want to dive into a bit, would be wonderful.
Yeah, no, thanks so much. Thanks for having me on the podcast. Super excited to be here today. It's, the topic of the Gentle Art of Crushing It. What a great topic. So glad to be here. So yeah, I am a sales and sales management guy. Was in corporate America for about 25 years through various organizations in corporate America, Fortune 100 and 200 organizations. And I was a top performing sales guy in both of the main organizations that I worked with. And I think probably when I look at, why was I successful and others might not have had the success that I have, I think it comes down with sales guys to grit. And, working hard is one piece of it, but grit that I just don't take no for an answer. And I am the guy that will follow up until you tell me not to follow up anymore or we close the deal. So that's kind of where some of that success has come from. But yeah, basically sales and sales management guy for 25 years and moved into real estate investing in the last 4 to 5 years as well.
That's awesome. I really love that you have, such a strong sales background, and also you're very confident in your sales. But also, you can just tell that it's a matter of fact for you. You're a great salesperson. And, I've heard a lot of people talk about if they're going to start their own business, they got to get good at, Robert Kiyosaki, I think, for example, they got to get good at sales. And sales for me, honestly, is one area that, I do love. I love sales positions. And, it's just always something that it's like how, there's always room for improvements. And, I'm always looking to get better at sales, right? So could you actually, I know you touched on grit and not taking no for, an answer, but can you actually share, something about sales that will help a lot of salespeople out there? Because people struggle, with sales.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think it's a good question because a lot of people salespeople get a bad name for themselves for the few that are the sleazy car salesman guy. And,
Yeah.
Something I've said for years is like the best salespeople in the world are never selling in the first place. And it's just one person connecting with another person. And if there's some mutual benefit that can occur there, then maybe a transaction occurs, maybe it doesn't occur. But I find that if you're part of an organization that is selling some type of product, service, widget, whatever it is, but if it's something that you firmly believe in and you don't have any hesitancy about that product and what value it can bring, then it's just really a matter of uncovering the folks that can actually benefit from it. And you'll find a lot of people that are super pushy. They don't, and here I am saying, don't take no for an answer, but
there's a right way and a wrong way to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you hear like the 3 strikes or the 3 no rule, like make them say no 3 times. And to me, I think that's a terrible rule. If it's not a right fit, like it's not a right fit, and let's move on. It's not going to benefit anybody.
Yeah, you're wasting your time as well as theirs, right? And I think like you said something that's key, which is you're actually just looking for the people that essentially are a right fit. Like, in wholesale, with wholesale real estate, for example, you're not going to get like the average Joe to give you this huge discount on their property. You're just looking for the people that fit that model. When you find them, then, I also heard you kind of saying that, when you go into that conversation, you're focusing on the other person and how can you bring value to the person? How can you help them solve their problem? So yeah, I honestly like really, really, love the fact that you're awesome at sales. It's such a great skill.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's, it's an interesting place to play. It's one of those areas where, the harder you work, the more you make. If you're in the right environment, of course. There are, of course, environments where the harder you work, you don't make more money, and those are generally just not good sales organizations to be a part of. But as a whole, sales, nothing happens in this world unless something's sold, right? The transaction that occurs between 2 people is what makes the world go round. So
1,000%. Zig Ziglar had this whole spiel on that. Have you heard that?
Oh yeah. Big Zig Ziglar guy. Yeah,
me too. And like the way he puts it, nobody else could do it as good as him. But the listeners, if they get a chance, look at that, because it is 1,000% true. The world needs salespeople. There is a few bad actors out there, and there is a plethora of great people that will help you, and you can earn a great income. And sometimes, for the new salespeople out there, we got to be careful. Maybe the company you're working for, maybe you honestly don't like their product, or maybe they're not treating you the way that you should be. Just know, like, this is the land of opportunity. There's, sometimes, like, actually the truth is too many opportunities out there, but you got to find some good ones, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Great. I love that. Let me ask you this, and we kind of the next question would be just, please just share with us one or more of your favorite successes that either you solely created on your own, or were a part of a team while creating it.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. It's when I look back, I spent 10 years with 2 different large Fortune 100 or 200 companies. And each of those, anytime you're in a sales environment, the ultimate win is the President's Club or Chairman's Club, whatever they call that big winner, where you're the top 1, 2, 3% of the sales organization. And, I've been fortunate enough where I've had 3 of those over the years. And the one that I got most recently was really just a super exciting time in my career. I was rising up the ranks. I was getting recognized for leadership. I got appointed for this group that was called Ready to Lead, which was the future leaders of this organization, or it was the group that they would groom for future leaders.
That's awesome.
And I actually got to be a part of that group just around the time that a new product launch was occurring in our organization. And it was the product that fit my skill set perfectly. I was super passionate about it. I believed it. I used it. Like, literally, I just loved this product. It was something that we were asking for years. And as I moved into this Ready to Lead group, part of that process was getting assigned to a project, and I got attached to the product launch of this specific product launch. And ultimately what happened with it is I ended up being, on 20 or 30 different, director level meetings. I would meet with every director in the group in front of their teams and share best practices. I was on national calls. I was being brought in to help other people close deals on other things. And it was just a tremendous success. And it was one of the most successful launches that we had in the history of the organization that I was in. And ultimately that ended up leading to a President's Club win and, the prestige and the acknowledgments and, I was the guy.
And we're talking a really large company, right? And the
Yes.
President's Club award happens once a year, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So it is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I think it's top 3%. And, there's 350, 400 people in the organization or in the division that I was in. So, if you were selected, it was a pretty big deal.
Yeah. You're good if you were selected. Really
yeah.
good.
Yeah, and it seems funny. You'll notice in the background, I've got all of the, my wall of awards. And I remember growing up as a kid, my dad had a wall of awards, and I always wanted to get a wall of awards as well.
That's great.
And it's funny. Everybody asks, what do you want to be when you grow up? And when I was a kid, all I wanted to be was a guy wearing a suit, carrying a briefcase, and I thought that would be success. Oddly enough, today it's a very, very different idea of what I think success is, but. Needless to say, it was certainly neat to have a lot of those wins along the way.
Amen. No, and who doesn't love awards, right? And trophies. And right along with that, you just mentioned something that I work at bringing up in every single one of these shows, which is the concept that we have to define what success means to us, right?
Yep.
So obviously, you just shared example of how you define success as a kid, and then as an adult, now it's like a totally different picture, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
You get a wife, get some kids, and life takes on different meaning, and relationships, like for me, anyways, have become more important and more deep, and character becomes more important. And so
absolutely.
Cool.
Well, and I think there's the dollars used to always be a big one. The titles used to be a big one. Promotions, I used to be a guy that chased promotions. And I had a mentor early on that said, and this is something that stuck with me. This has been very first part of my career. And I had come into his organization. I had run up to the top in a sales role, and then he moved me into a leadership position, and I became the number one leader. And then I was jumping into another role, and I'd only been with the organization for 2.5 years or something.
Wow.
And he said, he brought me into the office and he said, congratulations, Randy, fantastic. You've always done a great job. But he said, it's one thing to get a promotion or get repeated promotions over and over again, but it's an entirely different thing to stay in one spot and become the absolute best at what you do. And there's a level of freedom, there's a level of peace, there's a level of pride that comes from being the very, very best that you can be, that you just don't get by hopping between positions. And that's something that stuck with me.
That's great. If you'll allow me to interject, the riches are in the niches. The becoming a specialist. That's why surgeons create such a high income, right? And
absolutely,
it's cool.
Absolutely.
Those are some great words of wisdom. If I could just jump back to your scenario where the stars were in alignment with the new project and you were excelling in your sales career with this organization, would you mind sharing with us one of the most valuable lessons that you learned from that whole skyrocketing experience?
Yeah, I think probably for me, the biggest thing that I learned through that experience, and it's something that's really resonating with me lately, is, once you do find out, a lot of people will say, chase your passion and the money will come. Some other people will say, chase the money and you'll find your passion. um, different schools of thought on different things. But what I've come to know at this point is that where I personally feel the juice the most is when I get to a level of expertise that I can become a valuable resource for other people and then start to train and coach and teach them. That's where I really start to feel the flow. And that's where I try, and kind of how I'm tailoring my life and structuring my life today is I want to put myself in that position to where I can teach and coach and train and inspire and mentor more often than not, because I spend the majority of my time there. My days just fly by, and I finish the day feeling peaceful and complete and successful, versus the grind of just pounding the phones or chasing after the deal or whatever that is. Like, I want to know, inspire, and grow others is the goal that I got from that.
I think that's great. And you also, mentioned something that is also incredibly important for everybody to pay attention to, which is, when we're doing something that we discover time is passing in probably in a state of flow. So like, where are we finding that? And can you align your income with your state of flow early on? If you can, start working towards that, even as a teenager, it's like, you might have a wonderful, like, amazing life, so I really love that. Great. Thank you. Yeah. So let me ask you this. Would you mind actually sharing with us, one incredibly difficult experience or multiple that you've walked through, and something that you learned from that?
Yeah, and it actually ties back to one of my greatest, couple of years in my career. That same product launch that I mentioned to you, there were some environmental changes that occurred, and it was ultimately that product got pulled from the sales group, and we had to readjust and realign. And it was actually a very difficult year and a half or 2 years, because I had found my success there. I had, grown a very good name for myself and a good brand and reputation in this area. And then all of a sudden that product was pulled from the offering. And it was something that I still believed in very much, but had to completely shift and then start focusing on another area that I was not as passionate about. And, it kind of comes back to, in careers, you have highs and lows. You have to kind of work through those hard times. If you work for an amazing brand or amazing organization, it's easier to get excited about jumping back in the trenches, maybe even if you don't believe in the product as much anymore. But difficult time having to switch there. And I guess the lesson that I learned there really was that, at the end of the day, as a sales guy, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, whatever that is, regardless of what's going on in the environment, what's changing, if you show up and you do the right things and you work hard and you honestly try to bring value to people, then you're going to be okay, and you're going to get through this period, whether it's hard or easy or not. And that whole giver's gain mentality, I think, is something that's really, really valuable. Because again, if for myself personally, if I'm in that giving mode, I gain value just by the act of giving, right? And inevitably, when there are hard times in organizations, regardless of the size of it, whether you're a 2-man show, a 1-man show, there are always going to be people that are complaining. I call it the crinkled $100 bill. Like, somebody steps over a $100 bill that's crinkled, they're going to be complaining that it's not like perfectly crisp, right? So there's always going to be people that are complaining, and it might seem easier to fall into that complaining group, but really the easier thing is to be above that and try to choose to be positive and choose to bring value regardless of what's going on around you.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. You surround yourself with positive people.
Yeah.
What is I think Jim Rohn says you are the sum total of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. It is
Absolutely.
like such valuable, advice. I love that.
And what's neat about that too, so that, I mean, that is a mantra that I've lived by for years, but sometimes you don't have proximity to individuals. But I've been just like a voracious, I would say reader, but I'm actually a voracious Audible guy. So I listen to a ton of books. I listen to a ton of podcasts. Like I was driving to the gym the other day and turned on the radio and I was like, oh my God, I haven't listened to the radio in like years, because I'm constantly listening to podcasts and books.
If you're like me, all you listened to for years was music, right?
Prior to that, yes.
Yeah.
Prior to that, yeah. So definitely.
Same here. No, and I can tell you, and this is kind of going back to, Zig Ziglar, turn your automobile into Auto University,
Right.
And get those, books in you, get those courses, get the good, positive podcasts in you. It's like, I truly believe that, and it's kind of underlying in the questions of this show, anybody can go, and I believe it because it's the truth. Anybody can start from any sort of humble beginning and become as massive of a success as they want. In the case of Les Brown, which, do you know much about Les Brown? I mean,
I know the story. Yeah,
his
definitely.
story's unreal. And
Yeah.
I encourage anybody to look into Les Brown and his story. It is unbelievable. So it's
Absolutely.
the truth. We can make our dreams come true. Gotta love it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'd imagine being flexible, and also, during those times when you had to shift from your awesome product being pulled onto a new product, one thing that you had to remain is you had to probably keep your humility, right? Because
of course,
we always have someone to answer to, whether we believe it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of an interesting point too. We didn't get into before, but like being the guy on the top of the hill is a hard place to be as well. I had a leader that told me once, he's like, the easiest guy in the world to shoot arrows at is the guy at the top of the mountain. Nobody cares what's going on in the valleys, right? So just be prepared. And not only that, it's hard to remain humble too when you're up there and realize that, there's always somebody bigger, badder, faster, stronger, richer, whatever it is. So absolutely.
And when we become overconfident or cocky, we can make larger, stupider, more injurious mistakes.
Yeah.
Humility is valuable. Yeah, I love
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
Let me just shift the conversation a little bit and just ask you this fun question, which is, if you were to be sent back in time to age 18, knowing what you know now, you got to bring your knowledge and wisdom with you. What would you do to fast track your success?
To fast track my success, I think God, there's like 6 different questions in there, right? If I were to go back to 18, part of me wants to say like experience everything, and I've got this problem of, jumping out of the plane and building the parachute on the way down, and going a mile wide and an inch deep. So I think, really what I would probably say is just make a decision and do something and go all in on something, and don't be so worried on missing out on other things or wondering if you're making the right decision. I think, you get a lot of people that sit on the sidelines and, they're like, should I do this? Should I do this? Should I go this direction? Should I do this? They start second guessing every decision that they ever make. But, Brandon Turner says it famously, like, it's not really all that important what decision you make. Just make a decision and do it. And go all in. And I used to like this year, be so afraid that the decision that I make in this next move that I'm making is going to be like, once I make it, I'm going for, because I've been 10 years with the last 2 companies. So I'm thinking I've got to make another 10-year decision. Not really. I need to make a today decision. And if tomorrow or the next day, it's not the right decision, we can always readjust and change direction. Right.
You continue to build that parachute.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's a great analogy about, a airplane leaving from LA and going to New York. And, I don't know what the number is, but a very, very small percentage of the time are they actually heading in the correct direction. They're either too far north or too far south. And it's, that's kind of the path that I'm taking today is I'm going to go all in and I'm going to go hard, and I'm likely going to have to adjust, even throughout the day. Definitely daily and weekly though.
Yeah, I love that. And one of my past guests, and I don't know if you got the chance to meet him, John Klingenholtz,
Hmm.
shared with me that in his business, he makes a lot of small pivots, a lot of small ones, and it's course correct. The same thing where we're going from Los Angeles to New York in the plane, and they're off path whatever percentage, 80, 90%, 95, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
They still make it there because they're continuing to correct their course, right? And
Yeah.
it's great to be thinking about. I also wanted to circle back a little bit to the concept of making a commitment on like a business, for example, and which you're talking about, or just well, this is in business, but to bring up Brandon Turner again, he shares an example of, he started a wooden sunglass company like a few years ago, I
Mhm.
guess 4 years, 5 years ago, something like that. And I'm gonna, have some of the details wrong, but I think he said he stuck with it for about 4 months and then closed it, where he knows now if he would have kept it open, he would have made it profitable.
Yeah.
So sticking to it, thinking long term, and making that decision initially, and not flip flopping from the decision is
Yeah.
huge advice, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Love it. Yeah, and I was gonna say one of the you and I are very similar. This is one of the um, the pluses of actually doing this show is I get to know people, and I have the same thing. And I also think that kind of it's probably just pretty much all entrepreneurs. We have shiny object syndrome, and we have the propensity to overfill our plates. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so it's great advice to actually find one thing, go all in, like you're saying, and just, give it everything you got, stay focused. But yeah, let me ask you this. What would you say, what are your thoughts on mindset and how to go from a non-success mindset to a successful mindset?
Yeah. So I think mindset is one of the things that separates successful and non-successful people, right? You can take somebody with the same background, same education, same, technically work history, and put those same two people in a role, and they're going to perform wildly different based on mindset. The victim mentality or the person who is there in creation, right? So yeah, I think mindset is huge. Um, Being in sales, mindset is a huge piece because you're hearing no all day long, constantly. And I've always been one of these personal development guys. I bought a Tony Robbins thing literally on tape at one point, back in,
Back in the
gosh, in
day.
the late '90s, I think it was. Yeah, so I do, and we're both part of the Jason Drees community, the mindset
Yes,
community, which is something I started earlier this year, which has just been absolutely amazing. Literally
I
had the
agree.
best 45-minute session in our inner circle yesterday that I have ever had. It was just mind blowing. So,
I love it.
um, but yeah, I think mindset's huge. This idea and this concept of like getting yourself straight and getting yourself in the right mindset and frame before you enter a specific situation, whether it's doing your weird audible things where you're stretching or screaming out super loud or smiling voraciously to
Superman
trick your
pose.
body into, yeah, all of that stuff before walking in on a sales meeting, or after a long day at work, pulling into the driveway and trying to shift frame so you can walk in and be a good dad or a good husband. Like, it's all mindset, it's all frame shifting, it's all getting you in the right mind to show up, and whatever the task is, there is a right mindset or right frame for it.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love it. And let me ask you this: if there was a key that unlocked or helped to unlock, success in your life, what would you say that is?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm a high activity guy. Uh, I have a tendency to go, and I think an object in motion tends to stay in motion. The saying that
So
if you want
true.
something done, find somebody who's busy, and he's got a higher likelihood of getting it done than somebody who's just sitting around loafing, which it seems counterintuitive. So I don't know. I think I've always been the guy that's just activity, activity, activity. Yes, we need to refine. Yes, we need to improve. Yes, we need to do all of that, but we don't get to do any of that unless we're showing up and swinging at the plate. So I think activity and focused energy is really the answer.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I love that. And when you're saying activity, you actually make me think of Brian Tracy, who, in one of his programs, the Phoenix Seminar, which is an oldie but a goodie, but
Okay.
he talks a lot about urgency also, which is sort of like focused energy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's great. Um, I also wanted to mention, and we are going to try to keep it tight. We'll wrap up on time, I promise. But you said something a minute ago, talking about mindset, that I think is really important, and I've actually never heard it put this way. But you either have a victim mentality or you're in creation. What usually we hear is like we have a victim mentality or a victor mentality, but the
Hmm.
victor sort of that's great and everything, but creation, we're not. It reminds me of, okay, another guy, Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret. We don't
Yeah,
have to compete, we have to create, right?
absolutely.
And I
Yep,
think it's
absolutely.
like that is just very, very, solid, just amazing advice, where either you can be in a victim mentality or you can be in creation. Which one
Yep.
sounds better,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm a firm believer whatever you feed will grow. Like if you feed negativity, if you feed being a victim, if you feed like that will grow. Negativity grows. If you feed positivity, if you feed gratitude, if you feed love, that's going to grow. And we have a choice every single morning when we wake up what we're going to feed.
Yeah.
Sometimes you wake up and you feel like you got the 100-pound gorilla on your shoulders, and you can choose like, is this something that's going to hold you down, or is this something that's making you stronger? Right.
Mm. Oh yeah, no, I love that. And the 100-pound gorilla sometimes will become lighter if you just get up and start walking, start taking actions.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's that story of the two wolves that we have inside of us, one good wolf and one bad wolf. Which one are we feeding? And
Yeah.
I think it's a great way to look at it. And this is one of the beautiful things about podcasts and books and, positivity, success principles that we have to continue to put in our brains, because it's so easy to forget this stuff. It's a quick reminder. Which one are
Yeah.
you feeding? And
Yeah.
it's great.
It's funny you mentioned Earl Nightingale, Greatest Secret. For the last about 10 years, on the first of the month, I've got a reminder that says, listen to The Strangest Secret every single first of the month for the last 10 years. So, yeah,
That's so cool. I
yeah,
will join you on that. I was
yeah,
doing it every single day for a long time, and I haven't touched it for a while, but it's crazy. Like you can listen to it every single day, and still you're going to be grateful that you're listening to. You're like, oh my
yeah,
gosh, this is mind
yeah,
blowing.
yeah. That's great.
He was, but just amazing, like individual. Um, do you mind sharing with us one book recommendation, or it could be as many as you want, and one tech recommendation that you feel is very helpful?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I just got this new Ben Hardy book. I'm a big Dan Sullivan, Benjamin Hardy fan. Who Not How, Gap or Gain, Personality Isn't Perfect. That whole series is just absolutely amazing. So, yeah, if I had to pick one, I would probably say Gap or Gain, because it kind of goes back to that same thing. Like we can choose to either focus on the gap of um, how far away we are from the finish line, or we can focus on the gain on how far we've gone.
It's
Right.
almost harder
Um,
to see progress in ourselves than it is to see, deficiency.
absolutely.
It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be that way, though. Maybe it's socially conditioned.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. So technology wise, and actually, so this isn't a technology thing, but I just found Fiverr, which is like an Upwork type of thing, and I think it's the greatest thing in the world. I hired some guy from another country, and he sent 4,000 messages for me for $40, and I'm just thinking that is the most amazing thing I've ever found in my life. And prior to 2 weeks ago, I had no idea that that was even available. So
That's
that's
great.
something I'm liking lately.
You won't find a better deal than that for sure.
Sure,
And
sure.
I've used both of them, Fiverr and Upwork, and I really, really prefer Fiverr. Like it's
Yeah.
just,
Okay.
yeah, I like it a lot better. That's great. And so let me ask you this. How can our audience support you? Is there a particular type of deal you're looking for they can send your way? And how can our audience like connect with you?
Yeah, thank you. So, the majority of this call was talking about my corporate America career, and I recently left my W-2, and I have
Congrats.
started a thank you. I have started
Yeah.
a real estate investment firm where I help passive investors find good places to put their capital and get fantastic returns outside of the stock market. So, if you or anyone you know is looking for great investment opportunities in the real estate space, specifically through syndication, that is my new space. Probably the easiest way to find me is on LinkedIn under Randy Smith. And my website is impactequity.net.
Okay. And do you mind repeating the website one more time?
Yep, impactequity.net.
Awesome. And I will put that in your LinkedIn profile in the show notes. I'm so glad that you brought up syndications because you and I have talked before this show, quite a few times. And I just want to, vouch for Randy that he really, really is really knows what he's doing in syndications, real estate, and otherwise. And he has some, great advice. So definitely 1,000% reach out to him. And I guess sort of the last, housekeeping that we have for today before we say goodbye is, something that I'm super excited to announce, which is we are expanding the Gentle Art of Crushing It in the sense of bringing on more hosts who will bring much more value to the show than me, for sure. And so I wanted to introduce you, Randy, as one of our new hosts, and so grateful to have you. Do you mind just sharing a little bit about what your vision is for your show in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. So, super excited to be a part of this. As I'm leaving my W-2, one of the greatest things about real estate investing is that it gives you options. And after leaving the W-2, if it was not for the real estate investing that I've done, specifically through passive investing and syndications,
Yes.
I would have most likely had to go either one, not being able to leave the W-2, or I'd be out looking for another W-2 right now. So the focus of our show is going to be on passive investing in the real estate space and teaching folks how to do that, because it can be a super intimidating place. Everybody's so used to playing in the stock market where you just shovel off your 401k into this space that maybe you'll get access to when you're 65 years old, but there's better ways to invest, or there are ways to invest that work very, very well in conjunction with that. So the focus of the show is going to be passive investing. How do you do it? Where do you do it? Like, what are all these intimidating terms? And I'm going to bring on, hoping to bring on 1 to 2 guests per month that are just strictly passive investors. And then a couple of times a month, I'm going to just share tidbits and education pieces to hopefully make that an option for you.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it's going to bring so much value. And trust me, ladies and gentlemen, you want to know what Randy has to share. You really do. It's fascinating. And, like you mentioned, it has actually supported you very well. What you've learned in syndication investing. And I thank you so much. And, unless there's anything else you want to add, Randy, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up.
I think that's it. Doug, thanks so much for having me on the podcast. Can't wait to connect with the viewers on the other channels.
Yeah, 1,000% my pleasure. Thank you for being here. And that is just the end of another Gentle Art of Crushing It show. And so until next time, we will talk to you later. All the best.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of The Gentle Art of Crushing It. It was an amazing episode. We know we sure learned a lot, and we hope you did as well. We want to take a second and thank you so much for viewing or listening to this episode. And please just know that we only ask for one favor, and that is to make this life magnificent. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.